September is a time when students return to classes for a new school term. But Juan Ecchevarria has taken a long and special journey to get there. Until this summer, he had been a prisoner for 14 years.
I was already caught up in the streets into negative behavior.
And what were you doing in prison before you knew about the prison to college pipeline?
Pretty much sitting around, doing nothing, eating, getting fat.
Did you feel that you were treated differently? I understand that for the first time people were being called by their first names rather than their last names. It's a pretty good start when you're in prison.
And I think it was a little more than that. A lot of guys were used to writing down their number, identifying themselves by, their DIN number. And over the semester, that completely changed. And guys started to identify themselves by their first name. And I think that change came from the learning exchanges that we were having, because we started to feel as if we were a part of the John Jay community and not a part of the prison community.
I'm Steve Hamilton. Welcome to our new season of Criminal Justice Matters. Today we're going to introduce you to a program that helps ex-offenders like Juan get a college education. It's a remarkable program, and it started here last winter at Otisville Correctional Facility, 2 hours north of New York City. Life at Otisville, a medium security facility, is no walk in the park. 581 men are housed here, most of them from New York City. This is Otisville's educational unit, where offenders receive classes and counseling that will help them lead productive, law-abiding lives when they get out. Now, something new has been added to the curriculum. Kathleen Gerbing is Superintendent of Otisville. Lesley Hurd is Educational Supervisor. Later this fall, they will be welcoming a group of John Jay undergraduates to these classrooms, not as visitors, but as students. They'll be joining qualified offenders to take college-level courses taught by John Jay faculty. Offenders who pass the courses are guaranteed admission at a CUNY school when they're released. The program is called the Prison to College Pipeline. It began as an experiment last year in these classrooms, and it is already attracting attention across New York State and the country. Superintendent Gerbing has spent 26 years as a specialist, manager, and educator in the state's correctional system. Superintendent, thanks for joining us here.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming.
Let's start with asking, what persuaded you that this was a good idea?
Well, as you know, Commissioner Brian Fisher is a strong proponent of education and of college programs in the prison system, and he supports the college program, in particular the John Jay program. And in addition to that, I want to do a quote, and I don't want to misquote John Jay College's president, Jeremy Travis's statement, quote, "If over 700,000 people are leaving our prisons, how should the nation's educational institutions be organized to help them make a successful transition to a free society?" So I think the combination of Commissioner Fisher and President Travis's joint effort to make this a successful program is a foundation for the program. Through education, in my opinion, can never hurt anyone. So it opens up doors and possibilities to offenders that they may have not seen before. And I have seen the positive effect of, even as a teacher, teaching someone how to read, and when they can finally do it, how it just opens other doors to them.
I believe that having a college program that in the prisons is excellent, but having one that brings the students in created its own difficulties. Prison, by nature of where it is a very coercive society. Because of rules that we have to follow for obvious reasons, there's not a lot of encouragement of free thinking and coming up with different ideas. So the men are institutionalized, and they also tend to sort of think around the same parameters. In bringing a college program in that includes students that come from a campus away from the prison, we had to be very cognizant of the fact that these students also had to be kind of oriented and explained about the rules and all of those things that we have to do. But what they bring is so excellent for the men, because our men can now interact with somebody in society who is not incarcerated, who doesn't deal with barbed wire and, you know, a set of rules where everything is planned for them every minute of the day, and they have to be in certain places at certain times. It's like walking into a little area of freedom. And I think education and incarceration can sometimes seem like it's an antithesis. And what I've seen with the program that John Jay offers is an opportunity for both groups to learn from each other. And this is definitely better when our men who will go home can go home and hold their heads a little higher.
The Prison to College pipeline was the brainchild of Baz Dreisinger. She's an associate professor of English at John Jay College, and she believed that when the government eliminated college education assistance for offenders in the 1990s, all of us were worse off.
Thank you.
Nice to have you with us. Let's start by asking you, what inspired you to do this program? How did you come up with the idea for it?
Well, it came about in increments because of work that I was doing on the arts and criminal justice and representations of criminality and representations of incarceration. I started getting invited into the prisons to give talks. And I just, you know, organizations inside would reach out to me and say, would you come to the facility and give a talk? So long story short, I was doing this at a facility upstate one day, and I found those talks absolutely incredibly rewarding, and to be there firsthand and witness how intellectually hungry these men were, and how many of them would be college students, were college students at one point, wanted to continue on with college, was pretty powerful. And I got approached by a superintendent at this particular facility, and he said, why doesn't John Jay have a program inside? And I couldn't come up with any good answer to that question, and the rest is history. So I then developed the program from there.
You use a lovely phrase at one point, one of the articles you've written about the program. You talk about how inmates morph from inmates to college students. What does that mean exactly?
It's a shift in identity that occurs, I think, when men get enrolled in college who are inside. That up until then, maybe they've been thinking of themselves as a DIN number, you know, an identification number. As an inmate, they get called offender day in, day out. They're referred to only by their last name. There's a lot of dehumanizing things about being inside. And when they're in college, the identity starts to change such that they think of themselves as students, they think of themselves as thinkers, as intellectuals, as something other than just this label of offender or quote-unquote inmate.
So why does just giving them a degree while they're inside not work? Well, or not work as well, I guess.
Oh, no, I would never say that it doesn't work as well. Getting a degree inside is wonderful, and the programs that offer degrees, full degrees inside, are superb. But I think that that model is not necessarily for everyone. So the thinking was, what can we offer that doesn't already exist? Being that there are existing, although there are certainly not enough college programs inside, there are existing college programs inside. But the thinking was, we want to do something a little different. Now, the benefit of having them start college inside and then come to CUNY when they're released is that college becomes part of the reentry planning. It becomes this nexus of what reentry can be, such that you have counseling, you have tutoring, you have a whole new network of community that's waiting for you on the outside. I mean, the thing that happens with college is more than just getting a degree. It's about creating a network, a new community, meeting professors and networking with them. And when you get the degree inside, you don't necessarily benefit from all of those aspects of college. You benefit from getting the degree, but not all of the services and the offerings that college can bring to the table. So that's the thinking.
And having John Jay students as part of that process inside, having them as part of the classes inside the college as part of that process.
Totally. The thinking is, too, that we want to change the culture of the ideas about incarceration on campus as much as possible. How can we impact our student body here so that they are thinking about incarceration and who's incarcerated differently? You know, these are future leaders in the criminal justice fields and the social service fields. that we're training at John Jay. And so the more exposure they can have to incarcerated people and incarceration in a setting that's human and intellectual is phenomenal as far as impacting our future.
So it's a bit of a twofer, really. It helps students and it helps inmates. But does it work for everyone? I mean, it's not, nothing, of course, is the answer to help prisoners in terms of or returning prisoners in their reentry process. But a lot of people might say, or might wonder whether education itself is enough, considering all the other factors that are involved in preventing recidivism, whether it's your family environment, your neighborhood, your friends. Is education that much of a key factor in ensuring that people don't go back?
I'd like to think that it is, and I can't sit here and say absolutely positively. That's part of what we're trying to determine. This hasn't really been tried before, utilizing education as reentry planning. But that said, we do partner, we do think of this as a holistic program, and we have partners in the community who assist our guys with reentry planning. We're partnered with the Osborne Association, and we're partnered with the College Initiative, and the College Initiative works with formerly incarcerated individuals who want to go to school and mentors them and assists them with financial aid and so on. And Osborne, of course, is a long-established reentry organization. So we provide reentry planning, school planning, housing assistance as much as possible, job assistance as much as possible via Osborne. So we're a piece of a larger puzzle. It's not, I don't think education can stand alone.
11 Otisville inmates began in the program last fall. 2 have graduated. One of them was Juan Ecchevarria. Was it a real classroom in the sense you had to do papers or tests or exams? Or what was the work you had to do in the course?
Well, in the course, it was, with Baz Dreisinger, we had papers almost every week. We had assignments, about 3 assignments a week with her, and yes, it was a regular course.
Was it tough?
Yes, and the thing that made it tougher with her is that she was so energetic, her energy, and she showed you how to do it the right way, so you had no room for mistakes. There was no room for error.
So how did you have time to do your classwork, your homework, when you were also doing the other stuff that you need to do in your inmate normal routine that you have to do in the prison?
I used to do it on my downtime doing other program, and also I used to do it at night. At nighttime, I used to sit there and I used to be up till about 3 o'clock in the morning studying and writing papers.
3 o'clock in the morning, isn't there a lights out policy in there?
Oh, well, I have my lamp, so I had my lamp, so so you know they can't tell you got to turn your lamp off.
And did any of the other inmates tell you, "What are you doing this for?" I mean, it doesn't. Or they were.
No, actually, a lot of them was telling me that they felt good to see that, you know, that they was happy to see someone that was motivated with their education.
Were there a lot of people trying to get into the program once they saw you?
Yes, once they seen all of us, and a lot of the other guys felt the same way about this program that was in the program. On, you know, me personally, I see it as it made me feel, it gives me a sense of normalcy.
Normalcy?
Yes.
In what sense?
In the sense that it shows, well, it helped me to see that there is a better part of myself that can be produced from being active in college. Yes.
The prison to college pipeline could never have happened without political support. Jeff Aubry is chair of the New York State Assembly Committee on Correction. Since 1992, he has represented District 35 in Queens, and he's been the program's biggest champion. Assemblyman Aubrey, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much for being here. Was this a hard sell in the Assembly to get this program off the ground?
I wouldn't describe it as a hard sell. It was a long process because we're in difficult financial times, and we've been reducing programs, not expanding them. And so this was a program that is new to the funding stream that we have identified for criminal justice programs. And so from that context, I guess, you know, it was difficult to do because it also meant that we had to trim other places to provide the funding for this.
it's still early days, of course, and the pilot program seems to have gone well. What are the criteria that people will use to decide whether it is a success and whether it should be expanded or not?
In criminal justice, everything relates to reduction of recidivism, and that becomes the measure of what we call success in any of these kind of programs. And we're, of course, when it comes to providing college educations to individuals who have been in prison, we know statistically that their recidivism rates reduce dramatically as opposed to those who don't. To just simply get an associate's takes recidivism down into low percentage points.
But why would that be? So much of what we've been told about the causes of recidivism and regressive behavior is certainly lack of education is part of it. There's also the environment, the family influences of friends. How does education cancel out those factors?
Well, I think it provides an individual with options in their life that they didn't have without that education. I think it is an employment tool that is, of course, very useful for individuals. When you have graduated college, just like in the world, as they say, it sets you apart. It distinguishes you because you have been able to practice the discipline and the tenacity to go ahead and tackle difficult subjects and excel. But I believe more than that. I believe that what happens when you engage in a course of study in college, that if you're really a good student, and these men are good students, they're all described that way, that it changes your life. If college is not just make you a new tool for society to use, college should expand who you are, open up new ways of thinking. And these gentlemen clearly are in need of that, or they wouldn't be where they were.
Expand on that a bit. I mean, are you suggesting that this type of program, which prepares inmates for college life, is at all better qualitatively than the programs that used to be offered that gives inmates a degree inside college?
Yes, I would say it does. I think only because it does offer that opportunity for you to go, when you finish doing your commitment to the state, enter into a college system as a part of a matriculated student. And so that is a huge advantage and encouragement for someone who may be incarcerated but coming out. A lot of the men and women who have gotten college degrees were long-term prisoners. They entered into college programs after the, floundering around in the beginning of the system. They knew they had long time, and they said, well, what am I going to do with my life here while I'm incarcerated? So I guess I'll go to college and then try and graduate, because I'm going to be in for a while. And then I'll have the time, and it slows them down and all of those things. But this program anticipates that individuals will come out and go to school in the world, as they say. And so someone who's got a short term may be encouraged while they're doing that short term big to come in, go to school, and then be able to follow it up in an institution outside.
It seems like a no-brainer. I mean, you're dealing with people who have had no experience or have a certain amount of experience maybe in education and know a little bit about what it means to get an education, and you're giving them the life skills and the exposure that will help them get an education and down the road jobs. Why would anybody say, let's not fund this?
There are a lot of reasons. One is there's some objection. Some people believe that prison should be punishment, and that you go there because you committed a crime, and so therefore you should be punished, and you should have no advantages relative to life other than serving your time and being punished. There are some of us who believe that this is an opportunity to make the world a better place and a safer place. Every individual who goes to prison, other than a very few, comes home. And when they come home, they're the product of that experience. And if you can make that experience positive and productive so as to change their view of life, that means that's one more person that you don't have to be afraid of. So if I were merely operating on the selfish of motive, me, Joe Citizen, I want that experience to be as positive and as strong and as reformative as it can be, because I want to walk the streets and feel safe. Punishing people, we know historically, throughout history, only hardens individuals. Most human beings cannot be beaten down into submission if that's what they think happens. And we threw those concepts out generations ago, years ago. The civilized world, hopefully, doesn't believe in that anymore, or we would just torture them and hang them, no matter what they did.
To a certain extent, these inmates are special. I mean, they're already self-selected. These are people who are already have a mindset that, as we spoke to somebody who was in the program and just graduated from it, and he described his own transition, that he was already at the position where he was ready to go for a program like this. But the vast majority of the prison population is not ready.
No, I wouldn't say they are prepared for it. It takes change.
So it's self-selected. So I mean, this is ultimately it's going to help a small percentage of guys or women who are. But
a very important percentage. Mm-hmm. It's in any system, and the prison system obviously duplicates everything else. You have to have the place that creates aspiration, and so these men and women, if they're in a system and who have chosen to do that, become beacons of light all the way down the line, just as our highest educationally achieving people are, beacons for light for society. So in their society, these individuals stand out. They get respect in prison. People who are searching for which way do I go? Do I, go and hang out in the yard and be a tough guy, and lift iron and get in trouble and get tickets and go into the box? Or do I look to see if I can change my life? And how do I change my life? One of the ways to change your life is to engage in a course of higher learning.
It's a great way to put it, beacons of light. Some would call you idealistic.
I am idealistic, right? That's why I do what I do.
Idealistic politician.
Right.
How much of the expansion, or the potential expansion of this program, hinges on the success or the demonstrated success of the prison-to-college pipeline at Otisville? In other words, if it works, can it be exported or copied elsewhere in New York State?
I believe that it can. I think there are many levels that it has to perform to. It has to convince not only my colleagues in the Assembly, we have to convince the colleagues in the Senate, we have to convince the executive, and then ultimately society at large.
Meaning the governor.
The governor, right, and the governor. And enhance their capacity and his administration's capacity to do that. Now, most correction professionals understand the dynamics of a college program and what it does. They will say, and rightfully so, that their population come in so ill-prepared for college that they need to expend great amounts of energy providing individuals with a whole nother level of skill to get them to that point. But I think invariably they understand the beacons of light theory too, and want to see that happen. It is a process that will take a lot of different players to make happen. One of the good things I think about the prison pipeline program is that the institution, John Jay, and its leader are so totally supportive of it. That is a sign of progress and success. If I could get every college president in the state of New York to take the same progressive, enlightened position, we'd be a lot farther on to success.
If it works here at John Jay, will you take that to other
I'm going to trumpet it up and down the state of New York. As a matter of fact, I had proposed legislation to create a task force to look at college education in the prison that would encompass both the correction professionals, the state colleges, the private colleges, the police departments, the DAs, to come together and to see what would cause us to return to a day when we had more expansive opportunities like that.
Now that's, if you'll forgive me, really idealistic.
I described myself, self-described, I wasn't lying. But, you know, we had the same model in the battle with reforming the Rockefeller drug laws. You have to engage in bipartisan, cross-disciplinary discussions to achieve anything. And once you've done that, you take the politics out of the game. You take the soft on crime game out and put that out. And you get down to, you know, the hard facts of what works and what doesn't, and how do we make it work.
And what every taxpayer wants to know is what it's costing us.
Exactly right.
And what is it? What is this program costing us now?
Well, the state of New York is on the hook for a mere $100,000. That's nothing.
And the rest is private money, right?
And
it's
the rest
private
is
foundation
money. It's private money.
And if it's
But we
expanded,
spend $50,000 a year incarcerating every prisoner that's in the state.
$50,000 per prison.
Per prison. And higher than that when they come with mental health problems. And so we spend almost $3 billion on the system. And so every person that we avoid having to come back into that system, that's a cost saving. Because that means not only we don't spend the prison population money on them, but we don't spend the police dollar, we don't spend the district attorney dollar, the prosecutor dollar, the hospital dollar, and then the victim and what that costs us. So, you know, in doing this work, it is cost effective.
Assemblyman Aubrey, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be following the prison to college pipeline throughout the year. So please stay tuned for more special programs on this issue. Thanks for watching, and please tell us what you think. See you next time.